Welcome to the Impact Lounge. Feel the sound. Legends in the ring making moves all around. We got the fire, the heart, the stories untold. This is our moment. Watch the magic unfold. Welcome to the Impact Lounge, where we reign. Kings and queens of the ring breaking chains. We taking wrestling to a whole new height. Under bright lights, we ignite the fight. Genesis to rebellion. The crowd still chanting.
All right, what's up, party people? It is your boy BQ. Welcome to the Impact Lounge podcast. This is your Impact Wrestling review for January 9th, 2025. Got my Charger gear on today. It's playoff time. Big game coming up. So I'm super excited about it. Hopefully we get that win. Get to the next round. Got the game against the Houston Texans. So I'm just here representing and all that good stuff. So thank you for swinging by, as always, to the Negative BQ YouTube channel. If it's your first time here, this is the place to be for the Impact Wrestling fan, the TNA fan. So hit that subscribe button, give it a like, and give me your thoughts in the comments about the show. I thought the show actually was pretty decent, because last week I had said on paper the show looked like shit, and it ended up, for me at least, it was a good show. But I thought that the majority of the meat we were getting on episode 1 of 3. So I think we're getting 3 total episodes, right? Before Genesis. I thought we were getting the meat right there. And there was a lot of talking, but they progressed a lot. And I was saying, well, the next week is probably going to be a lot of talking too, but it's going to be the same people talking. And you know, I just wasn't really sure about it. Next week's card does not look that good. So, and I always say I'm not a big fan of go home shows. I think next week's is the go home, right? I don't know. I have no clue. What's today? The 11th. So boom. Yeah, I think so. But this episode actually ended up being pretty decent. So I was pleased with it. I thought it was pretty easy to get to, and there wasn't a overkill of Santino or nothing like that. So I'm gonna address something here first before we kind of get into the episode. The thing that the dirt sheets were running with over the last several weeks was Matt Riddle and TNA didn't pay him, right? If you click on the actual article, he did make a comment where he said, I think turnaround time is 3 to 4 weeks. I usually like my money up front, but if you actually read the article, you can tell he wasn't being negative towards TNA. He wasn't saying anything negative, but the company was, of course, put on blast because the dirt sheets ran with TNA didn't pay him. And that is something that the haters love. They love to clown TNA for that. They have for years and years. Pay has not been an issue for a really long time. Sean Sapp reported that he was paid on the 23rd, I think. So, like, there were some websites still running with this, even though he had already been paid. To peel back the curtain a little bit for you guys, even though Ace Austin actually did say this, Ace Austin, what am I saying? Ace Austin. Even though Matt Riddle actually did say this in the article. He said something like the turnaround time for pay was 3 to 4 weeks. They do get paid a month later. So just so you guys know, just peeling back the curtain a little bit, it's not common for someone not to get, for 30 days later say, hey, I haven't been paid yet. Like, that's actually standard operation. Now, the only difference with Matt Riddle is because he's not a signed part of the company. He's not contracted. He's not part of the show, right? He just kind of came in. He's an outsider. So with that, the system just operates differently. I don't know what system they use for pay. I don't really care. I don't know what I have no idea. But because he was not a contracted wrestler, it can take longer than 30 days. So I think it's kind of like a 30 to 45 day thing if you're not actually part of the roster. So it's just the way their pay system works. So let's do it. Let's get into this episode of Impact.
TNA Impact. Oh.
Kicks off. Let me throw this at you. So we know that we got a new ring announcer coming, right? That Jade is not going to be staying on. We will get our new ring announcer at Genesis. I don't know who it is. I have no idea whatsoever, but that is where the ring announcer will debut. I have confirmed that it is not Dave Penzer. And all I was told is that they were looking at several different peoples. They had several different options. I pitched to them Christy Hemme, but but I didn't get any kind of confirmation if they spoke to or anything like that. I was just told that they have several different options, or several different people they were looking at, and then at Genesis we will get our new ring announcer. So this kicks off six-man tag team action. We got the System, Eddie Edwards.
All right, son, I'm gonna need those 2 hams back.
I don't have any hams.
Lift up your shirt, son.
Brian Myers.
What is she going to think when she comes in here? Oh, look, he's got a billion toys.
And Johnny Dango Curtis.
These are spirit fingers, and these are gold.
Their opponents, the star of the hit show Vinyl Obsession and king of the rah rah, Eric Young.
I think those times are like the rah rah speeches and like getting everybody up, because like nobody really get motivated off that stuff anyway.
Jonathan Gresham.
Pinky, the octopus.
And Steve Macklin. So this was an okay match. It was an okay 6-way. Like I wrote in my notes, can we just kind of get to the part where Steve Macklin pins JDC and there's a post-match beatdown? Like, and that's what happened. That's what we knew was going to happen. If you're really just looking at this, what's the story? They kind of sort of ran into each other backstage the other week. Like, I hope that this is the end of bumping into each other backstage, interrupting each other backstage, and then that's all you need to build a match. Like that's your, I mean, I guess I can understand if it's not a feud, if you're just kind of building a match, but this is going to be a feud. Like I'm pretty sure Eric Young and Steve Macklin are going to wrestle Brian Myers and Eddie Edwards at the pay-per-view. Like I'm pretty confident that's where they're going. None of them have a match. Even though we kind of got the match here, I'm pretty sure that's where they're going. They're definitely going to Eric Young turning on freaking Steve Macklin. Like don't even question that shit. Like that's clearly where they're going. If it's short term, if it's long term, I don't know, but that's definitely what's going to happen. Because they kind of need them as a tag team right now, so I kind of hope that they are a tag team. But because if they are, that kind of beefs things up very quickly. You bring in another tag team, let's just say, man, who's the guys that Danny Luna was with? Mark Andrews and that Flash Gordon dude. I forgot what their team name was, but you bring those guys in. You got Eric Young and Macklin as a tag team for the majority of the year. You get Hammerstone back. Like you got something. You got something to work with, and you have opponents for the Hardys, you know? And I think there's a little bit of money if you can eventually build the Hardys towards Macklin and Eric Young. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's where it's definitely going, the breakup, but hopefully they do remain as a team for a little bit. So there was two things that happen here. Again, we're just furthering Steve Macklin, his character, getting him some wins, and writing Jonathan Gresham off television. Because Jonathan Gresham, last week when the three of them were talking, and it was like, what is he doing there? You know, like I know he's teamed with them before, but it's like, what's his involvement in this? So of course, Macklin's team wins. They beat the System. They pin JDC, and because that's where I think that's the angle, the revenge angle. You know what I mean? But after the match, they attack Jonathan Gresham. They wrap a chair around his neck, throw him into the steel post, and then Matt Raywall, of course, like, oh, just put Jeff Hardy on the shelf for months. So right away, that was like he was just telling us, okay, we're not going to see Jonathan Gresham ever again. And man, his run in TNA was complete shit. You know, he came in as the ROH Pure champion there for a little bit, and they were doing the Pure rules, and that really, really worked. And then he kind of had this thing going with Speedball Mike Bailey. Like the heel turn was kind of coming where he was, and this storyline was going to work, I think, where he was kind of questioning the referees, enforcing the rules, and like his gimmick, because he just came off someone who was doing the Pure rules. So that, to me, that's a good transition of coming in and be like, yo, what's up with these referees? They're not calling shit down the middle. They're not calling shit. You're questioning the officiating, right? He started going that direction a little bit, and then they kind of got away from it. And then he started kind of going babyface. And then obviously there was the octopus thing, which everyone was really interested in at first, and it ended up being like one of the biggest bombs that TNA has done. You know, if I were to do a podcast like the biggest bombs, like in the past, I used to do like 7 worst free agent signings or whatever. Well, it was really easy because the company at the time was a shit show. it's not a shit show now, so I can't really I can't really point out, oh, over the year they did all these horrible things, because they haven't really. But if I were to do something like that, Jonathan Gresham would be like right there at the top of the list. It's like just that of creatively being the biggest bomb. And there was one point where it almost seemed like they were going to turn him heel. Jordynne could potentially turn heel. Like there was, they just didn't like sink their teeth into him. And when they did sink their teeth into it, it was just an awful, awful gimmick. So yeah, that was that. After this, we got Savannah Evans.
That's a huge bitch.
And she's in action. They say she's in action. Zaya Brookside's music. She is queen of the rubber match. I'm sorry, but she is out of action. Did Savannah Evans attack her after the match at Turning Point? Because she said, because of you, I'm not medically cleared. It showed Zaya Brookside hitting the Brooksy bomb on Savannah Evans, which she cooperated in getting pinned. And she said she's not medically cleared. So I don't know if she was supposed to wrestle Zaya Brookside, supposed to wrestle a jobber. I mean, you would think your opponent, if the match is announced, your fucking opponent is cleared. You know what I'm saying? So it's those weird like things they do in creative that don't make a whole lot of sense. But she says your opponent, who is cleared, Leijing Li.
And whether Bill Goldberg, let me tell you something about Bill Goldberg.
They had a very quick match. This couldn't have been but 3 or 4 minutes. It was not good. But I do want to give them some respect here. There was an angle where Leijing Li tried to do a crossbody block off the top rope. Savannah Evans was clearly supposed to catch her. She didn't and kind of fell into a front slam. Then she kind of punched Li, and then she rolls out of the ring, gives Leijing Li time to get to her feet, and then they kind of re-engage. If this were AEW, you're always going to get an AEW reference from me. If this was AEW, Savannah Evans would have caught her, fell down, and then like wasted like 10 seconds trying to stand up with her and then do whatever spot they had planned. And that clearly was rehearsed and it looked like shit. And it's like obvious there's a botch, So it was pretty clear that it was a botch, but at the same time, it kind of showed that the two women are pros. Like I'm actually really impressed with Savannah Evans that she kind of had the wherewithal to, okay, this looked like into a shitty front slam. Let me get out of Dodge. And just kind of reset, you know what I mean? Other than that, the match was a little sloppy. It was quick. Yeah, they try to say Leijing Li. It took her like 2 months to get medically cleared after taking this fucking full Nelson bomb from Savannah Evans. I mean, my God. So there was no build. Like there was no build to I can't say there was no build. There was a build. There was a story. Because Savannah Evans, who I told you guys was getting repackaged as she was coming back, she attacks Leijing Li. I hope I'm saying that right, because now I'm trying to go off the top of my head because I always mess up her name. She attacks her, and then she cuts like a promo the next week, and then we don't hear from her for about 6 weeks. Like she's not wrestling jobbers, they're not building, they're doing nothing. Well, I shouldn't say not 6 weeks, because then she was in the 3-way, which I believe de facto sort of kind of ended up being a number 1 contenders match. It wasn't supposed to be, because Zaya Brookside was like, oh, if I would have won, I'd be wrestling Masha. Like it wasn't a number 1 contenders match. It was on the pre-show, but it was what they used to get Rosemary there, to give her some momentum, whatever, so that she could wrestle for the title. But she didn't look particularly great in that match. She lost the match. She almost lost. Zaya Brookside almost pinned her. And then we get to this point, and old girl just shows up and beats her in 4 seconds. I'm like, that's it. There's no storyline, no nothing. The company has showed an inability. I haven't said this in months because it hasn't really popped up in my head, but they have shown an inability to have a storyline involving the knockouts that does not involve a championship. Obviously the tag team titles have very little in the way of story. The knockouts title, they do a pretty good job storyline wise. Even all things considered, where Jordynne Grace had no opponents last year, they do a pretty good job. But if you're talking about knockout A and knockout B, and they're going to wrestle, and the title is not involved, like completely lost on how to have any kind of story. So I was interested in this, in Savannah Evans coming back and attacking her. And I'm thinking, well, first of all, neither of them can really talk. Lei Jing Lee speaks decent English. And then Savannah Evans is not a very good promo at all. But, the two of them together would not mesh doing talking. So I was kind of interested. How are they going to advance this? How are they going to further it? How are they going to build it? No, there was no build. There was just her coming back, wins the match, feud over. So I just, after the match, I just wrote in my notes, what the fuck did I just watch? Backstage, we got Gia Miller.
Jesus Christ, that's perfect. Of course you're here right now.
And she speaks for about 5 seconds. Jordynne Grace walks up and says to Tessa, bitch, meet me in the ring. They don't actually meet in the ring until for like another hour. So it kind of had me thinking at that point, like, because they went off the air with that last week, I understand they were trying to make you wait on it. I think it should have kicked off the show, to be honest. You're already doing fucking talking segments last week, so you might as well just do another one here, because we'll get to that part later. But that's what we had. Next was the Northern Armory Gauntlet. We had Mike Santana.
That's nasty.
And he was wrestling each member of the Northern Armory. So we knew exactly, if you have any common sense, I just wrote in my notes, Josh Alexander is not wrestling tonight. Like, this match is not happening. I knew that last week when they announced it. It was just very, very clear. So first he took on Kid Icarus.
I'm just a job?
Beat him pretty quickly. After that, he takes on the Wizard, Walt Williams.
I'm just a job?
And then we get Josh Alexander's music.
I don't want to play with you anymore.
And again, we knew the match wasn't going to happen. They threw it out right away. Kid Icarus and the Wizard, Walt Williams, attack him. They throw the match out. It's a disqualification, whatever. Tom Hannafin again pissing me off, saying, Mark Santana's the only person to run through the system. Like, it pisses me off every single time he says it. Because now they're going to try to say he ran through the Northern Armory and the system. Like, I know exactly what the fucking, Tom Hannafin's trying to do here. So, they're going to have a match at Genesis. It was announced. I believe there's a stipulation to this match. I'm pretty sure. So, I don't think it was announced, so let me not say what it is, but I'm pretty sure there's going to be a stipulation to this. There's always a couple garbage matches on the show. There just is. Like, so, we're not going to get a pay-per-view that's just like top to bottom, wrestling. Speaking of garbage match, whoops, I jumped ahead of myself a little bit. First, we have the personal concierge.
That's my dad, but don't worry, he's cool.
Really? He doesn't look cool.
So he says that next week they're going to do something never done before, and they're going to have some kind of Knockouts Championship pre-celebration. Because Ash and Heather are going to win the titles. I don't know what to tell you guys. Spitfire's not even on the fucking show. You know what I'm saying? So Ash and Heather, they're going to win the titles. So it's actually going to make Spitfire look pretty bad, in my opinion, because it sounds like these girls are going to pre-celebrate, which I think actually is kind of interesting. I actually really want to see it. It's probably going to be, it's going to be bullshit because Spitfire is going to come and attack them, right? Like, we already know that's going to fucking happen. But last time that they did try to do some kind of celebration, Ash and the personal concierge, this is, I think, when they, I think it's when they announced or they introduced Heather. I think that's what it was. They had like bowls of punch, even though they had champagne. There was like 2 bowls, and it was like, okay, their faces are clearly going in those bowls, but it was just like really weirdly laid out. Anyway, like I said, speaking of garbage match, we get a backstage promo by Rosemary.
Oh, what's that? Is that Rosemary? Think? What the hell is she doing?
And she's cutting a Rosemary promo. I think Rosemary needs to talk in the dark because the lighting was excellent for this. And she was at a bar. It just doesn't like really fit. I know she used to do a bunch of bar stuff with like Taya Valkyrie, but I don't know. Like, I think it's hard for Rosemary to be a heel because everyone likes her. She's doing some good heel work right now, but I think you got to enhance that a little bit by doing these backstage segments kind of in the dark, like the old Decay stuff that used to happen on, in the Pop TV days or whatever. So she's talking about Masha Slamovich, and Raven pops up out of nowhere. And she puts a knife to Raven's throat, and they play a fake horror movie sound when she does that. And Raven is basically telling her, like, you can't beat her, like, you're not that good. So I propose a garbage match, the Clockwork Orange, whatever. So that's going to be the match at Genesis. Rosemary, Masha Slamovich, the Clockwork Orange, whatever the hell garbage.
Get that garbage out of here! I'm here to tell you right now, we don't care. Let me tell you something. We don't care.
Masha is quickly becoming queen of the garbage match. She will have a new soundbite next week. Someone is saying on Twitter, well, she has death matches, all that stuff on the indies. I get that, okay? I get all that. She has had, this will be her 4th title defense, I believe, and every single one has a stipulation, and they're unnecessary stipulations. There was the 2 out of 3 falls with Jordynne Grace because they needed Jordynne to get a win, even though I thought Masha should have just won 2-0 to further establish her. But they wanted Jordynne to get a win. Okay, whatever. They didn't want her to lose 2 matches in a row. Then she wrestles Alicia Edwards, and they're like, okay, well, Alicia's not good enough, so garbage match. Then she wrestles Tasha Steelz, and like, well, Tasha's also not good enough, garbage match. Then she wrestled Rosemary. That's what's coming up. Oh, Rosemary's not good enough either, garbage match. Like, let these girls work. You know what I'm saying? There's worse shit out there on TV. Like, give them the opportunity to work. So yeah, Masha, we're retiring her soundbite. Fran Stanislanovich, Skadavinsky, whatever. We're retiring it. We're gonna have a new garbage match soundbite next week. Next up, tag team action: the Rascals.
In one word, would I use dope? Nope.
And they're taking on the Good Hand Jobs.
Hey, for another 60, I'll jerk you off in the parking garage.
So there's no Hardys on this episode because, like I pointed out last week, the Hardys work one day of taping, just like Nick Nemeth does. Well, the Hardys didn't work any taping here. They just did the TNA Plus show, and they were out. So the segment they did with the Rascals was like clearly backstage at Final Resolution. And I forgot to point out last week, they said the term GOAT like 3 times in this backstage segment where they were building this match. Shocker, I hate a lot of things. I know that shocks you guys. A lot of things annoy me. Big shocker. Number 1 on the list of things that annoy me is the term GOAT. You cannot get on social media without seeing the word GOAT or the term, whatever you want to call it, like 50 times throughout the course of your day. Everyone's the freaking GOAT. And then there's GOATs, plural. LL Cool J came up with GOAT in like 2004, maybe. Somewhere in that general. He had an album called GOAT. Okay. This is not a new term. This has been around for a lot longer than I think people realize. I hate it. I hate that it's like somebody come up with something new, come up with something different. Like, this is fucking crazy. But they used it 3 times in the freaking talking segment alone. Like, can we not? I heard one of my kids, my daughter, say it one day, and I'm like, oh my God. She's like, what? It's just a term young people use. I'm like, I'm fucking familiar. It's been a term since before you were born. Anyway, Rascals had a match with the Good Hands. John Skyler has some decent mic work. He goes, dude, I don't know if there's anyone in wrestling that goes for the cheap heat like John Skyler does. I mean, cheap heat. Sometimes it hits, sometimes it doesn't. It's going to be interesting to see if they push these guys in any way in 2025. I don't think they're ever going to be like champions. There was one point where I thought they might be, because I think it was right around the time they teamed up with Mustafa Ali briefly, and then they had a world title tag team title match, and I'm like, okay, these guys, maybe they're doing something. We obviously have to have some people in the company who are going to lose matches, and that's what they're good at. But I can see a breakup angle happening at some point, probably towards the end of the year. I think they need him as a tag team for now, but Jason Hotch at some point they got to break off, and he can transition very easily into a babyface because he doesn't even talk that much. There's like he doesn't have any heel heat. He has heel heat because John Skyler gets a little bit of heat. Again, cheapest fucking heat you can possibly come up with, but um, at one point, Jason Hotch is going to be a player in this X division. I don't know when it's going to happen. I don't think it's going to be soon. I think they're just going to kind of continue to do the job for a while. But this tag team match was pretty good. They didn't like the Rascals did not run through them by any means, which they probably should because if you can hardly beat the Good Hands, how are you going to beat the Hardys? You know, but I was impressed by these dudes, even though they're jobbers or they used as jobbers on the show. Like I was impressed with them here. It was a pretty good tag team match. Then backstage, Eric Young and Steve Macklin are talking, and so you try to end Jonathan Gresham's career. They may have ended his career. It's very possible you never see him on TV in any company again. So they probably did end his TV career. Don't get me wrong, but in TNA fashion, they are interrupted by Big Boom AJ Francis. Boom! And Casey Navarro.
But I am telling you right now, that motherfucker back there is not real.
When I tell you I have no idea what they said in this segment, I don't. I think they were trying to get a match next week. I really didn't fucking care, to be honest with you. I think they were saying they were going to go talk to Santino about something. So there was a couple things I was confused with this episode. I'll get to the other one later, but well, no, I'll talk about it now a little bit. But it was when Sammy and Santino were talking backstage. I'm like, I don't understand who's challenging who here and what's non-title, or I don't know what's going on. So there was two things in this episode that I actually did. They already happened at this point, but I should talk about them. They did a Joe Hendry video package where they have to kill time on the show. So there was two things that they did. Number one is Joe Hendry. It was very, very well done. They should do it with more people, especially when you're challenging for the world title. They should. We should get more of this so we get in depth and find out, why someone is who they are, where the gimmick came from. And Joe Hendry's talking about, hey, the guys that were over had great entrances, which is a lot of the reason I used to point out Dave Penzer announcing everyone exactly the same and no one coming out any different. Every entrance was exactly the same. Like that's the point, because entrances are part of what gets people over. But yeah, it sounded like he put focus on the entrance, and it talked about his singing and dancing and shucking and jiving and all that, and then how he got into professional wrestling. So we needed something like this because everything with Joe Hendry is very, very silly. And if this motherfucker is not serious at Genesis, I don't know what to tell you. If when he does his comes down to the ring, if he's not fucking fired up, ready to go, comes down, does his little turnaround and isn't dead serious, I don't know what to tell you. I think I say this every week. This title reign is not going to be what you guys think it is. When he wins it, it is not going to be what you think it is. The only thing that's going to save it is if he goes into Genesis and he at least for one night only gets serious and gets mad, gets angry. You know what I'm saying? So we'll see if that's what happens. The other thing that they did this episode, we got almost in its entirety, it felt like Jeff Jarrett versus Kurt Angle from Genesis, whenever 2009, whatever it was. Jeff Jarrett is challenging for the world title here on AEW, so very fucking convenient that they had a good Jeff Jarrett match to pull up that happened to be from Genesis. You guys know I hate these. I hated these when it was a part of the show. When I told you guys there was the period that I really wanted to quit podcasting because of the Red and the We Own the Night and the Penzer and the fucking Dead Audience and the TNA Plus flashbacks, and at one point they were doing what was the other channel? They did two flashbacks an episode. I can't remember that channel for anything. They had like a 24/7 TNA channel, whatever. So they were playing clips. I mean, we finally got away from all that. Last week it didn't really bother me because it was a time that I looked on very fondly at with TNA on Pop, and the Hardys were starting to get hot with the broken stuff. Decay was hot, um, and the DCC was interesting. So I look fondly at those times. I will say with the Kurt Angle and Jeff Jarrett match, like you could feel the fucking heat, right? Like there was a great story leading up to it, able to use real life. The commentary was incredible. There was no fake one-liners, fake reactions. It was really, really natural. Don West and Mike Tenay, they were so natural and just reacting to the action and not being phony. Good times, man. I tell you, when they play these, I just feel like they have to look at some of those and say, "Hey, how can we recreate some of the things we see here?" Some of the camera angles, like that's what made TNA TNA. They're doing a really good job with the current version of TNA, but I think they have to they got to look in the vaults a little bit and say, "Hey, what are some of the things that kind of worked?" and try to bring that onto the new show as well. Get rid of what didn't work, but find some of those things that work, because there was just something about the pace of the match, the camera angles, the commentary, the feel. In the past, they would play these clips and it would look 1,000 times better than what we saw on screen, right? Like it was dark, yellow tint, looked like shit. 13 fans looking miserable in the crowd. Because we'd see the entranceway or whatever, and then they would go, okay, well here's TNA from 2008, and it looks 1,000 times better, and it made the current show look worse. This time, I didn't feel that. Like for the first time, they show this, and then we go back to the current TNA, and it wasn't like this major drop off, So that's good. That is a very, very good sign. After that, we got Alicia Edwards.
Hey, baby.
And she's coming down to the ring with Moose.
Damn you, Moose.
Two-time grand champion Moose. Let me not disrespect the grand championship. So Moose is cutting at this promo, him and Alicia. They throw the X Division championship on the floor. He said it was the ugliest title he's ever seen, when frankly that X Division championship is the most beautiful title they have had since the big TNA gold belt. My opinion. I think that title is real sharp. I think it's the best looking title currently on TV. But whatever. So he throws it on the ground. Clearly we're getting a new title. I thought that what they should have done was brought the new title out under some kind of cloth to tease for next week, because they'll tease that, hey, we're going to show you the title, but then the next segment happens, you don't get to do it, and then you got to do it next week. Like that's what I would have done. So they're in the middle of this promo, and then we hear a free download beat from SoundCloud, and it is Andrew Everett. And he comes out. These people had no idea who the fuck this motherfucker was. No fucking clue. I would have gotten a bigger pop if I showed up in that segment. I like Andrew Everett. Like I at one point, this is kind of the Pop TV days when I first started covering the company. Him and Mark Andrews were the only guys in the X Division that actually wrestled any kind of X Division style, and everyone else was just a bunch of lightweights doing the same moves that everyone else is doing on the show. And I felt really bad for him, because wrestlers all the time talk about in interviews when they debut and they return, they're worried that the crowd's not going to know who they are. No clue who this guy was. None. And he cuts a promo, and it's brutal. It's absolutely brutal. Like, I don't think he talked this much when he was in totality when he was in the company the first time. And he's still doing the kind of Andrew the Giant gimmick. He has the one strap and everything, and he weighs 500 pounds or whatever the hell. There's no way this dude makes a limit. Excuse me, a cat knocking my camera around. There's no way this dude makes a living off professional wrestling. He's good. He's good. Don't get me wrong. But it was like he was so ice cold when he went out there. I'm like, this dude got another job. Like, there's no way this dude's making the rounds on the indies and wrestling in high profile matches. I would love to see him back in TNA. I actually really, really would. I was a fan of what he did. I liked when he was doing the Helms Dynasty stuff and all that. Like he would be great to have back. This showed he's not back though. I'm going to assume that he lives there because Moose challenges him to a match, and he said, "Hey, I'm gonna put the X Division title on the line. X Division title on the line." Completely runs through this dude, like whoops the absolute shit out of him. What he should have done to Laredo Kid, what he should have done to Kushida, in my opinion. So this was needed for Moose. This was needed for his title run to his X Division title run to run through some dudes. You know, he didn't even hit the spear on this dude. He just power bombed him, and then put one foot on his chest. So that tells you Andrew Everett is not returning. It's actually really odd that we had 2 powerbomb finishes, as neither of them being finishers. Mike Santana beat the Wizard Walt Williams, and then Moose beat Andrew Everett with power bombs, not finishers. You know, so yeah, just kind of interesting. Moose has cut in this promo, and they're doing the what chant. And earlier, when Josh Alexander got his headset back, and they started, "You look stupid." Remember, I told you guys this is a fucking WWE audience. This is not. I know they sold this thing out or whatever. There's not a lot of people there. It's a casual audience. Whatever they have there in Atlanta is a casual audience. It's been very, very clear. And it's very clear because I didn't know who Andrew Everett was. Because if it was a TNA audience, he would have gotten some kind of pop, and he got absolutely nothing. All right. What do we got after this?
The limit does not exist.
Santino. Yeah, Andrew Everett too. He said, "Who are you?" "I'm an X Division wrestler." This fucking guy. Anyway, so Santino is sitting backstage on his phone.
Sometimes it may be good, sometimes it may be shit.
And Sami Callihan walks up.
Oh, you gotta give him that huck too and spit on that thing. You get me?
These backstage segments, by the way, the Gia Miller interviews still look like shit a little bit, but these other backstage segments are starting to look pretty good. I mean, these are like in high definition. When it showed when Moose was wrestling Andrew Everett and it showed Ace Austin looking on, he's watching the match. It was clearly a pre-tape because he's just there in like beautiful high definition, much better than the actual match we're watching. But these are starting to look very good. This was not good. I don't know what the hell they were talking about. When I said something else later confused me in the show, I was like, didn't First Class challenge the Rascals at one point? And now, oh no, First Class, I'm sorry. I got the segments mixed up when I was talking earlier. First Class challenged Eric Young and Steve Macklin. That's what it was. That's why I was very confused earlier. Here, I believe Sammy, along with PCO, they're trying to challenge the Rascals so they can try to get into, or they wanted the winner of the match. I had to listen back to this twice. I didn't want to. I didn't understand what they were talking about. I could barely hear. The mic work, by the way, on this episode was awful. And like when Andrew Everett was on the mic, Moose, whoever else was on the mic, you could barely hear him. Sounded like crap. But this segment here, I was having a hard time understanding Santino, and he was calling Sammy something about meat. I mean, he is salami, calorie, ham, the bread machine. But so I guess we're gonna get some match next week. I don't care. That's probably a good place for the "we don't care" sound drop. After this, we got Jordynne Grace. She hits the ring. And she said something along the lines of, "It should scare you that I've got a live mic right now," which I was wondering what she was going to say. Don't get me wrong. But she's not going to say that kind of shit on Access TV that, we really need to heat this thing up. Then we get she calls out Tessa Blanchard. She says, "Be a woman and come out here." And she does. So we get Tessa Blanchard. She hits the ring.
Oh, I don't like this. That if the Nuggets don't win this.
And I got worried for a split second because this feud has a lot of heat. Jordynne Grace has been getting her ass whooped. And I was really, really worried that when Tessa hit the ring, Jordynne was going to whoop her ass. And if she does that, the heat is now half of it's gone, right? I was pointing it out with the PCO Matt Cardona thing. I was like, where's the heat? Because PCO beats on this guy every single week. And they do this a lot. It's 50-50 booking is not just the wrestling. Sometimes it's the afterbirths. One week I whoop your ass, the next week you whoop my ass. Like the heat is gone when that happens. We want to get behind the baby face that they're going to, ultimately overcome the heel. But if they're doing on the episode, why do we care about the match? I said the same thing with Mike Santana. If he went into the locker room and he fought the whole system by himself. Where's the heat now? Why do we have a match? You know, so they're doing a really good job with this. Jordynne got a couple punches in, but security and all these people came down. You should, if you have an opportunity to watch this back, watch the goof ref. Give me a second. My cat is laying on my keyboard and Spooky. How about you just get on my chest? My lap. This cat here is incapable of not being up my ass. I've explained it before. I bottle fed this fool as a baby, and he thinks I'm his mother, and he is just incapable of not being where I am. So you just calm down, you sleep or something. I was trying to say, watch the goof ref. I was trying to hit his sound.
You one of those challenge kids?
The doctor said I could be on the spectrum.
I don't know what that is, but get off it pronto.
I just combined sound drop and sound bite with Drite there. But if you go back and watch this, this fool is just running back and forth, like waving his hands in the air. At one point he slides across the ring on his knees. Totally unnecessary, but it was like, you never watch these kind of segments and you say, oh, let me watch the auxiliary pieces. Let me watch what the security people are doing, the ref, like I just decided to watch this goof this time, and he had no clue what he was doing out there. It was actually kind of funny. You guys probably don't care. I'm the only one who really has an issue with the goof ref. And then we got the main event of this program. We got a lot of names here to go through. The Spam Beast, the Snore Machine, the Convenient Store Machine, the Vietnam War Machine, Rhino.
Tell us about the war. Any one of them.
And he is teaming up with Joe Hendry.
Believe that.
And they are going up against the Nemeth brothers. Ryan Nemeth.
It should have been me. It should have been me.
And Nick Nemeth.
I've been talking to people walking here. We've been talking about next year, and I'm sitting there saying, I'm not going to be here.
On commentary, we had Frankie Kazarian, King of the Block Party.
It's a block party. I'm not playing with y'all, bro.
And this was kind of a weird tag team match.
Oh, and I can't count.
The way that it was laid out was Ryan Nemeth is a heel, so he kind of had to wrestle like a heel when he was in there. He had to do some heel things. Nick Nemeth is a babyface, and Rhino is like, we're letting you go, so we have to pay you. So we're gonna find something for you to do these last couple episodes. So I think this is Rhino's last match. I'm gonna be blunt with you guys. Rhino was making a lot of money for a lot more than he needed to. I know the exact number, as a matter of fact. I will never repeat it. I know what he was making. It's exactly why he's being let go. Because there's no return on investment on Rhino. You know what I mean? You use that money for promotion, for marketing, for signing a young up and coming talent. And he said he thinks he can make more on the indies. Like, I know his indie rate too. So good luck with that. But yeah, the match was kind of weird because of the way it was laid out. But I had thought coming out of Bound for Glory, because Ryan Nemeth was a heel and he was clearly going heel, that I thought that was going to lay the groundwork for Nick Nemeth to ultimately be a heel so that we can have some actual heat between him and Joe Hendry. There's still no heat. There is zero. We have, I think, one more episode to go. There's no heat between these two. There was like a little bit at the end because Nick Nemeth was upset that Joe Hendry won the match. Like, he's not, he's upset that he's not the one with the momentum coming out of this thing. But there's just none. And there's some heat in the other matches, which I think is going to make this an overall good pay-per-view. Last year, I thought Hard to Kill was the second best pay-per-view of the year. I thought Rebellion was number 1. I thought number 3 was Bound for Glory, and number 4 was Slammiversary, which Mike Gilbert did a poll, and it was like the complete opposite of what I just said. But I was also at the first 2 shows, so it's, I always tell you guys it's hard to compare that to watching on TV. But I thought the top 2 pay-per-views were very good last year. And I think this Genesis one is going to kick some ass because there's some actual heat. They're not just throwing matches together. A couple of matches are going to be thrown together. Don't get me wrong, but there's some heat. I think we kind of care about a lot of the matches. So, I think that's a good thing. The main event just still doesn't have it. And there's a strong possibility that it is again very, very overbooked. If we get JBL, if we get Ryan Nemeth involved, I want to see Nick turn heel because I think him and Ryan Nemeth as a champion, not champions, but as a heel tag team, can have a program with the Hardys. And I think that would do some money for them. So that's where I hope they're going. But I've got a bad feeling that we're going to get a very, very overbooked main event. There was one point in this match, Ryan Nemeth gave like Rhino some fake punch in the corner. Tom Hannafin, what is he doing?
Oh, and a kick out.
No, he didn't kick out. He said, I used the wrong Tom soundbite there, so my bad. But that fool just cracks me up. I think I did not make fun of Tom Hannafin this episode. I probably said something. I feel like I imitated his voice at one point. I'm pretty sure I did. That's going to do it for me this week, folks. I think next week is the go home show. The next week has like Jake something and Laredo Kid and Leon Slater, who we like, but he's not. They tend to do these go home shows featuring all these people that aren't going to be on the fucking pay-per-view. It's really weird. So that's why I'm saying I don't like the go homes. But that is going to do it for me, folks. I am your boy BQ. We will talk again soon. I'm out. Peace.